Hey guys, it's Joanna, and in today's video I'm going to be telling you all about how I got rid of my dark spot, which is right here. So if you are curious about that, do keep watching. First of all though, just some preamble. If you're new here, hello! I hope you will take a look at some of my other videos, find some content you like, and subscribe to my channel. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you would give this video a thumbs up, and finally, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Logic vs. Luxury. Alright, now with regards to my dark spot. First of all, I'm just going to say right now, if you are hoping that I'm going to tell you some magical cure that you can just go pick up at a pharmacy for $5 and be done with, this is not that video. I'm going to be telling you about my medical procedure that I went to do with the dermatologist. That was really inexpensive, but it is requiring, a visit to the dermatologist. So just FYI, this is not some magical cream solution. If you saw my other video on my Get Ready With Me a couple videos back, I actually talk about this, but this video is going to be going in depth on basically the whole experience so that you have all of the details if you were curious about this procedure. Alright, so with my dark spot, I'm going to put a picture right here of what it looked like back in the day. So it was essentially just a patch of skin that had a higher concentration of melanin. It kind of looked like a freckle that was bigger than normal, and it was just one freckle kind of on the top of my right cheek. So there was no texture, there was no kind of raised bumpiness of the skin or anything like that. It was just a smooth piece of skin that just kind of looked darker than the rest of my skin. It first started showing up well over 10 years ago, honestly. I can't recall exactly when because it was kind of a gradual process. And basically, I just have myself to blame for it because I had never been a consistent user of sunscreen until I was in my late 20s. So this is just another reminder that even if you think you're barely in the sun ever, you need to wear sunscreen every single day as long as you are visible in natural sunlight, whether that's in the shade or direct sunlight, it doesn't matter, you need to have sunscreen. Okay, so that's number one. Learn from me, ladies and gents. So that was kind of how it formed. Gradually over time it got worse and worse. When I first started showing up, I honestly didn't think too much of it. I just assumed it would go away on its own naturally, but as the years wore on, it actually just got bigger. Now, about 5 years ago, I actually had a visit to the dermatologist's office because I was wanting to have some other things looked at, and this just came up as well because at that point I wasn't too bothered by it, but I figured, might as well ask about it. And this dermatologist prescribed to me hydroquinone, which is kind of the well-known, well-regarded, well-studied skin bleaching topical cream that you can get through prescription. So I started using this hydroquinone about 5 years ago, and to be honest, I just was not very good about being consistent in using it. It was kind of unpleasant to use, if I recall correctly. It smelled badly. It just wasn't something that I really enjoyed doing in my routine. Plus, hydroquinone is one of those things that takes a long time to see results, and I just was impatient. So basically about 3 months into using it, I started becoming less and less consistent in applying it daily, etc. And probably also didn't help that at that point I still wasn't using consistent sunscreen, so it was kind of doing myself damage more than good, to be honest. So I basically stopped using the hydroquinone. This isn't to suggest that that wouldn't work for you. That honestly, probably with proper use, proper consistent use, it probably would work for you. It is a very well known type of medication. However, just in my experience, I did not find it to be particularly useful, probably because of how I was using it. So that was 5 years ago. As I said, at that point it wasn't such a big deal. I could still generally cover it easily with makeup, and I didn't notice it too much. But as the time wore on again, now we're talking about, maybe 2 years ago, it started becoming really noticeable to me. I was seeing it more in pictures. My mom even commented to me like, hey, what's going on? What's that spot on your face? Well, actually, Mom, it's your genetics, because my mom, I've also noticed now in her older age, she has freckles all over her face. And I had never noticed this when I was younger, but clearly my skin is susceptible to pigmentation. So another reason to kind of wear sunscreen, especially for me. But you should, wear sunscreen every day regardless, even if your mom has perfect skin. So anyhow, about 2 years ago is when it started really becoming more noticeable to me. It was harder to cover with makeup. And so at that point I decided, I'd do some research, and it seemed like the big solution to this was laser treatments, like multiple rounds of laser treatments. That could be pretty expensive. But I was okay with that. I went into the dermatologist, a new dermatologist this time because I had moved, and you know, I was prepared to shell out thousands of dollars for multiple rounds of laser treatments. I mean, generally speaking, laser treatments are cosmetic and therefore not covered by surgery, or sorry, not covered by insurance. So even though the derm visit for me was covered by insurance, you know, any kind of procedures arising from that probably would not be covered. So I was expecting to pay out of pocket, and I was so surprised when the dermatologist actually said to me, oh, why don't we do cryotherapy? I had never heard of this before. I don't know how I overlooked it in my research of ways to treat dark spots, but she explained to me that it was basically applying liquid nitrogen, which would freeze kind of the topmost layers of your skin and therefore shed it and reveal the kind of nice unblemished skin underneath. She did say there were some, you know, initial probably side effects, such as obviously you are freezing off your skin and therefore you're going to be suffering with some redness and scarring. But she explained that there weren't really any risks, with at least in her examination of my skin, with long-term damage. And best of all, she said it was going to be $40 and she could do it right then and there that day. I was not expecting that. I didn't, you know, at that moment in time, I didn't really think too much about it, and I just said, okay, sure, let's do it. In retrospect, you know, I wish I would have done more research leading up to that, and I actually, you know, really regretted it right after this happened. So again, you know, definitely consult your dermatologist. This might not be for you. So she came out, 40 bucks. I was like, this is so cheap, I can't believe it. Like I said, I was expecting to pay thousands for lasers, so $40 for this cryotherapy was nothing. If you don't have medical insurance or your insurance doesn't cover dermatology visits, you know, you can expect to pay anywhere between $100 to $200, maybe more, for a dermatology visit. And then this procedure on top of that, in my case with my derm, you know, she was kind of a fancy dermatologist, so I was really surprised it was only $40. I'm sure it varies in price, but honestly, all they did was take out a Q-tip, dip it in some liquid nitrogen, dab it on my face, 2 seconds, done. It was not an intensive procedure. It was very, very simple and quick. So after she did that, she applied some Vaseline, you know, gave me some directions on how to care for it and what to expect. And she again did explain that, you know, I would be seeing some redness for probably a few weeks and scarring, and to just make sure that it was moist with Vaseline in this entire recovery period. Immediately after, I was regretting it because it was very red. It was a lot more noticeable than it was, and I just suddenly started thinking, oh my gosh, what if my skin doesn't recover from this as, you know, the dermatologist expects? Because, you know, she obviously can't predict for everyone what their skin is going to do, and I really, really regretted it. And I started, like, you know, frantically searching online to see what other people's experiences with this were and scaring myself. So it's good that you're watching this video, because at least you can see the kind of full experience that I had, and probably go out and do some more research yourself to make sure that this is a right option for you. So that was kind of my initial reaction for the first few weeks. I kept taking care of it, you know, putting on the Vaseline, etc. Eventually the kind of piece of skin did scab over a bit, and it is really noticeable. So if you know, are maybe going to work every day and interact with a lot of people, that is something that you would want to be aware of, because it does, for at least a short period of time, make it more pronounced. And, you know, it's hard, you can't really cover it with makeup also, because it's bad obviously on a healing wound to be applying makeup on top of it. So you just really want to put Vaseline on there. So, you know, be prepared that it is going to leave some visible scarring for at least a couple of weeks. I went ahead and continued on with the recovery, and then about, you know, a month afterwards, or maybe 2 months afterwards, is when, like, my skin started becoming normal again. And at this point I was like, oh, this actually did do something. You know, the redness started going away, and the dark spot, I was still able to see it, but it had dramatically faded. So I would say this is when I started making YouTube videos. So I'm going to just insert a picture of one of my get ready with me's early on, and you can see kind of this is what the result was after the scar had healed, and you can see that the dark spot is now faded a lot compared to the original form. So basically during this whole time I continued to use products like vitamin C serum, my retin A treatment via Curology, niacinamide, etc. All of these things that also help with pigmentation, cell turnover, etc. And I have noticed during, since a year and a half ago that slowly that dark spot was fading, and I was really pleased with that. Fast forward to about September of last year, so maybe like a year after my initial treatment, and this was on my trip to France and Spain, and somehow on that trip, I don't know what happened, but this became like a scar again. I'm not sure what happened. It kind of flaked over, it was really dry, and you could pick it off, and it was kind of like just that little piece of skin where my dark spot was became a flaky scar again, and I was very confused. I'm not sure what caused it. It seemed like normal skin just before that, maybe just a little bit of texture from the scarring, but then during that trip is when that texture started like actually becoming more pronounced and becoming flaking and all of that stuff. It was kind of distressing. So when the trip ended, like I had basically, this whole area had just flaked off again, and it left me with a huge red mark again. So let me just insert a get ready with me picture screenshot from this period, this like September period when this happened. There you go. I have no idea what caused this. You can see it is quite pronounced, and at that point I was like, holy crap, a year after this treatment my scarring suddenly comes back and is worse. It was very, very alarming to me, and I basically, there was nothing I could do really. I didn't have time to go to a dermatologist again, so I just kind of let it go. I tried to cover it with makeup, etc., and continued using all of my skincare products. Then I don't know what happened, like maybe 2 months after that, so around November, December of last year, that whole area just completely faded and is now more or less gone. And now, instead of like a little textured skin that was there kind of from the period of my initial treatment to September, it is just normal, smooth skin again, and it's just like as if nothing had ever been there in the first place. So I honestly don't know if that's normal. I don't know if I'm gonna experience a return in another 6 months time of that kind of weird flaking situation. But as far as I can tell right now, my skin is pretty great. I have to say, I'm really pleased now, a year and a half out, with the results I've had from this cryotherapy procedure. It has been up and down, and it was not something that I had researched at all prior to doing it, so I do wish I had done a little bit more research before doing it so I could actually know what to expect. Now with my results, a year and a half out, I certainly would recommend this as a way to treat a few dark spots. If you are trying to treat like all over freckles, I don't think this is the right solution, because you are going to be dealing with a really distressed skin. But if you are just having maybe 1 or 2 dark spots or hyperpigmentation areas of skin that you would like to treat, it is worth definitely consulting your dermatologist about that, because at least in my case, I'm really thrilled with the results, and the fact that it was only $40 is kind of incredible considering I was expecting to pay thousands of dollars for laser treatments. So that is my experience. I hope you found this video interesting or learned something. Definitely let me know if you have questions down below, and I'm happy to answer them. I'm not a dermatologist, so you should definitely consult your dermatologist if you have more specific questions about your skin and how you might react. Okay, thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a like, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!